let's wrap up 2023 with the December reads that I read last year. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is the December wrap-up of 2023. December was a wild month for me personally. We are gearing up to leave this house, so a lot of deciding what we're taking, what we're not, is happening. It's Christmas, holiday season. It's peak in the freight world, which is where I work. I work in customs in international freight, so trying to get everything cleared and out for people for delivery. It was just a bit of a hectic month. And also I started some internet drama, and that all happened in that month. And I stopped reading for a couple of days there, or even weeks. Just the thought of adding that to my brain space was not viable at that time. So I feel like I had a bit of a slow reading month, and then it really sort of geared up again towards the end. So I do have 7 books to talk about. One is a carryover that I finished in the month of December, and then 6 new reads. Before we jump into that, make sure you check in the description box down below for links to my social media and Discord should you want to come along for the ride. The first one I have to talk about is book 5 in the Malice Book of the Fallen. That is Midnight Tides by Stephen Erickson. I'm doing this one with Roger over at Rogers Reads, and he reads them way faster than I do. I carried this one over into December. So these books tend to take me about 2 weeks, and that is 2 weeks of concentrating on these books and then trying to fit other stuff in around it where I can. Midnight Tides may be my favorite book of the series so far, and the reason for that is there was a lot more philosophizing in this one. It's certainly my most highlighted book of the series and probably the most memorable for me thus far. In terms of the story elements we are thrown into, I don't know if this is the 3rd arc of the whole series or the 10 books that make up the main series, but we do have a new set of characters which start to make little connections towards the end of the book. My Malazan experience has very much been, I don't really know what's happening, but I'm enjoying the ride while I'm going for it, and I can see this as being a series that I reread in a couple of years' time and hope to take more of the story elements in, but I'm still just enjoying it for the time that I'm reading it. I reached out to Matt on Books to explain some things for me, which was great. Thank you so much, Matt. Really appreciated that. I'm having a great time with Malice Book of the Fallen, even though I don't really know what's going on. So, take that as you will. The next one I read was also with Roger over at Rogers Reads, and that is Wrath by John Gwynne. This was finishing up the Faithful and the Fallen buddy read that we had going on. I really liked Wrath. I have enjoyed the series. The second book, Valor, was the weakest entry for me personally. Wrath really took a lot of the build-up that's happened. So book 1, Malice, and book 2 was very much build-up. Book 3, Ruin, started to have payoff and consequences. It started to have some bigger character moments that hit hard, and in Wrath, all those elements come together. There was still too much time taken to really get to the climax, and I feel like some of the elements of the climax for me, or like characters that were being killed off, wasn't as impactful as it could be. So this series is not going to be a new favorite for me, but I can definitely see the appeal. This entire series felt like coming home to fantasy. This classic fantasy, very enjoyable tale. You've got, a whole bunch of characters with tropes that you're familiar with, but it still does put a new twist on a lot of those. So I had a great time with Wrath. It's, like I said, not a favorite series of all time, but I think there was certainly enough in there to enjoy. The next one I picked up was my last read that before leaving the SPSFC competition with what happened with Epic, I'd started this book. So even though we weren't in the competition anymore, I'd already started it, and I'm just going to finish it. That is Mod Superhero Initialise by Samuel Fleming. This book surprised me with how much I enjoyed it. I normally will not gravitate towards a superhero story. I don't like Marvel. I have liked some DC movies, but I never grew up with the comics. I don't gravitate towards the comics, so I'm pure entertainment value. Some of those movies are fine, but for me, superheroes is not really something that I would go towards, which is why I've been a little bit hesitant about the Hybrid Helix series, which I'll be reading next year, but I'm now excited for that. Mod Superhero Initialise really surprised me with how enjoyable it was. So this one we're following a young man who is supers obsessed, and this book can be sort of, I guess, summed up as The Boys meets Superman. It really does explore both sides of what being a super is. So you have supers and villains. Not everyone was a super, but people sort of knew about them, and they would have battles. And then underlying that, there are these chemical or companies that were trying to produce supers, and they sort of like seem to have a monopoly over the power there. So it was a bit of an exploration of this person coming into some powers and then playing around with them and figuring out how to be a super after a freak accident. So a lot of fun. Like if you're looking for a palate cleanser sci-fi series which reads super quickly, and that wasn't a pun in super quickly, I've really enjoyed it. So I'm now looking forward to reading more superhero based stuff in the future, even though it's not something that I would normally go, yes, give it to me. The next one I picked up, I absolutely adored. This is a novella by an author coming out in 2024. I think this novella comes out on January 9th. And that is The Rest to the Gods by Joshua Walker. He's an Aussie author based in Melbourne. And if this novella is anything to go by, I cannot wait for that first full-length novel. This is a novella told in two timelines. So we have the past and we have the present. In the present, there is a war going on and we're trying to stop it. All the characters in the book trying to stop it, trying to gain an advantage. There are 4 different sides that are in this war, and we're following one character. We also follow this one character in the past, and these chapters are interdispersed between what's happening right now. And we get to learn how this character, and I don't know if I'm going to pronounce her name right, so I'm just going to not pronounce it, go and read the book. We find out how this person came to be in the position that she's currently in the war, while we're seeing the actions and the choices that she's making through the present timeline. I thought it was so fun, beautifully written. The prose in this is very well thought out. Big call, but it seems as planned and as thought out as Patrick Rothfuss for me. So if that's a selling point, this novella is free if you check out Joshua Walker's website and sign up to the newsletter, and you'll get it January 9th. The next one I picked up was Renia by Carl Forshaw. I promised Esme that I would read this before the end of the year, and I just made it happen to keep that promise to one of my best book buds here on the platform. This book was so much fun. We are following Renia, who is a young scribe, and she has been tasked with translating some forbidden texts. There is much more to Journal 26 that meets the eye in these forbidden texts, and chaos ensues. As she sort of discovers these texts, she's sort of also exploring her past. We have a mystery element where this forbidden journal gets stolen, and in the aftermath of that and discovering what has happened, Renia finds that she is actually quite powerful and can use a magic source called the Light Stones, but has no idea how to control it. There was a lot of elements in this book. I really liked the aspect of the Reapers. I want more of the Reapers. I want a Reapers novella that's all about that foundation. I had a really good time with this one. I will write a review for it at some point if I get time, like a full review to put here on the channel. I will try and do that before we go, but I may not be able to film it until we arrive in Perth. But I will try and get some more coherent thoughts about Renia, because it's very good. And again, very accessible to new readers of the genre. The next one I read was, I have a physical copy, but it's over there, so I'm not going to go get it. It's The Malice Box by Martin Langfield. Now, this book was fine. It has a very Matthew Riley-esque storytelling. So if you've ever read a Matthew Riley standalone, you'll get the idea of what this book entails. So it basically says 7 days, 7 chances to die, I think, 1 person to save the world. So we're following Robert Reclus, I think his name is, who is a news reporter, and he's been caught up in this person Adam's games for a long time. What he didn't realize was Adam wasn't really playing games. There's like a sinister association, organization or something, who basically wants to end the world. So Robert has to go through 7 trials to be able to get enough power within himself to stop this group from detonating the Malice Box, or I can't remember what they call it in the book, the Mafaret or something. to save the world. So the first 150 pages I really enjoyed. That was the backstory of the relationships between these people in the group. So there's 4 people sort of intertwined. And then the second part of the book, which is the biggest part of the book, were the 7 trials. These got really long in the tooth for me. They took too long. There were 7 trials. If there were 5, it probably would have been more enjoyable, but they got very convoluted and just boring by the time we got to the end of them, and it took me a very long time to finish that part of the book. I read Renia first because I needed a break. I finished an audiobook first because I needed a break from this book. And then the end was also very snappy. So first part, cool. Middle part, very long. Last part, cool. And it ended in like 50 pages at the end. So I don't know if this is an author that I'm ever going to go back to. I'm not mad that I read the book and like it was enjoyable enough not to DNF. I know I'm not a DNFer, but I probably wouldn't have if I was a DNFer. And I think I ended up on a 3-star for it. And the last one that I finished yesterday was Lords of the Bow by Con Eagledon. This is the Conqueror series book 2, which is all about the life and the conquers of Genghis Khan. The second book in this series, I really like the first book, Wolf of the Plains, which was a setup book. We start with Genghis Khan as a child and sort of what built him to want to be Genghis Khan. And in this book, we are following a lot of the conquests. So there is a period of years in history where Genghis Khan, I think it was 5 or 6 years, where he was basically accumulating tribes. His idea was to bring all the tribes under one and just have one tribe, one entity, and he wanted to be the ruler of everyone. So this book really goes through a lot of those conquests and bringing tribes under his rulership and some of the trials and tribulations that happened in that. Because that's all this book really focuses on, and also his second wife and his sons growing up and also his brothers from the first book, it felt quite slow. It very much felt like it was another setup book. So at the end of this book, that would be spoilers, but I don't know a whole lot of the history. My favorite part of this book was actually there was a historical note that Con Eagledon had written at the end where it went through what actually happened during this time period and how it had been fictionalized for the story. Do not ask me any of that because it's probably already gone from my brain at this point, but this book did feel like setup. Again, it was fun. It was enjoyable, probably a 3-star for me, but I'm looking forward to seeing if it picks up in the next book. Those were the things I read in December of 2023. What was your favorite read from December? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like the content, give it one of those. And if you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.